Hello there, and welcome to episode 187 of Mac Yak. It is just three of us here today. Last week we had the two Gregs doing the show by themselves, and we decided to give them a break this fortnight, so they can have a bit of a rest. Steve can't be with us because he has family stuff to deal with, and Mike is probably trapped under something somewhere. We're not really sure. So, hello to Dana. Hello, how are you? And hello to Jay. How are you? I'll let Dana answer first. What you been up to, Dana?
Working. Lots of fun.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
Yeah, we've got
someone
a couple of people off this week, so it's kind of hectic. Plus, there's a holiday on Monday, so everybody wants to get everything done right now.
What's the holiday in aid of?
Memorial Day.
Okay. How about you, Jay? What you been up to?
Lots of work. And with the weather improving, I've been spending a lot of time outside in the garage again. With this long weekend, hopefully, I will have some time to clean the remainder of my office so I can reach my workbench and then maybe catch up on some repairs.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not a big fan of the heat. So when you say weather improving...
Yes. Today was a maximum of 20 degrees Celsius.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's been very windy for the past few days, so I am extremely happy.
Sorry, I was just looking at the temperature here at the moment. It's not too bad. Okay, so we do have some notes here. We'll probably I'd just jump in and just say that I've been working with a 3D printer here. I've got a review coming out soon, so I just thought I'd mention that's one of the things that's been occupying my time in a big way lately. And
I'm not gonna mute. This is not a show for kids. You can handle a burp.
So we've got a couple of things here to talk about. Now,
before we do that,
yeah,
can I ask who here, and that's you dudes and everyone in the chat, who here uses what's it called? Netflix, and who is now upset that they have finally enforced the no password sharing policy?
What?
And everyone that you shared your password with will be cut off starting yesterday.
It's going to be one user, one password?
So if I understand it correctly, you can actually have more than one user, but they will charge you something like an extra X amount of dollars, $8 or something like that, for every additional person using it. So you'll have one account and then you'll pay a little bit more for the extra.
Yeah.
Now,
and it's already $20 for the premium account or something like that, right?
I don't know. I don't share my account with anyone, so it's not going to impact me at all. So
yeah, it sucks for me because my friend has had an account for years, and what little I do use Netflix, I piggyback off of his account. So sounds like that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, I use my sister-in-law's account, as does the half of the country uses her account. But yeah, they're now going to be checking IP addresses, and hey, you're not in the same household. You're not even on the same damn country. Disabled.
I wonder if so I have two internet connections coming into this house.
Show off. We get it.
No, but I'm just saying I could theoretically be watching Netflix on two separate IPs and still be fine. I wonder how they would deal with that. So
why don't
I suppose I'd be
out?
Stuff it. But I've been watching The Last Kingdom on Netflix lately, which is like 5 series long, and I've been really enjoying it. So at the moment, I'm actually like really happy with Netflix. But when I get to the end of it, we'll see what happens.
I rarely watch it. There's some kid shows on there, and my wife watches it as well. But I only watch it when I do. It's on the Apple TV, and the time it takes for the Netflix app to launch, I can go to the movie theater, watch a movie, come back, and it's still loading. It's
Never
crazy.
really noticed that. Never really noticed that.
red N with a loading bar under it is just there for
Did you?
minutes.
No, you might have a slow one or something because it doesn't take that long on mine. No way.
Did you just call my Apple TV slow?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I have one too, and
Wow.
it doesn't do that.
Wow.
You're doing it wrong. That's what it is.
Oh,
You're doing
okay. Yeah.
Learn
No,
to Apple TV.
Fair enough. And there's a bunch of people in the chat that already got rid of Netflix a long time ago, and I completely understand because when I tried it, it's like, oh, Netflix, they have everything, and yeah, they have everything up to 10 years ago. Try to find something recent, they don't have
Everything
it.
you don't want.
Yeah,
to watch.
pretty much. But speaking of subscriptions, if I may segue here. I heard something about Final Cut Pro going subscription. Does anyone know
Well,
something about that?
I believe that's just for the iPad version. So
I think
I'm
they
not
talked about that on the last show.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's a known thing that the Final Cut Pro. But in terms of the desktop, yeah, I haven't heard any rumors about that. So
So the Final Cut Pro on a mobile device that is vastly less capable, you have to pay monthly for now.
that's correct. Yes.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I
Wait.
can't imagine anything worse than doing sort of editing on a iPad. But
Someone tell me Patrick is trolling us. It is not $500 a month.
I think
No.
Patrick forgot his decimal point.
Oh, he's using Siri again, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it was like $50 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were talking about it. Greg and Greg were talking about it. They thought it was $50 a month. It's $50 a year.
Yeah. Of course, I vaguely remember that what actually ended up happening is I think they got misled by Steve or something in the chat. Something along those lines ended up happening. So
Well, that never happens.
yeah. And then they all got very confused and then they figured it out. I was watching that part of the show. I only watched about 5 minutes of the last show, but that bit I did watch.
Okay. All right. I didn't catch any of the last show, so I'm not aware of what was covered.
Now, I also just wanted to make a very quick mention before we start launching into these topics is I recently purchased, I don't think I mentioned this on the show I was on last time, I recently purchased a second-hand M1 Silicon iMac, Apple Silicon iMac for my live streaming. And I bought that second-hand based on Jay's recommendation. It was a good recommendation. I'm very happy with it. And even though it's an M1, even though it's, a couple of years old, it is still blazingly fast for what I'm using it for, which is for streaming, and I've been extremely happy with it. So to have bought a relatively inexpensive second-hand, refurbished essentially M1 Mac Mini, and to have got such a significant improvement in performance over what I had down there, I'm very, very pleased. So
Because you went from a 2012 Mini or a 2014?
I went from a 2012 i7. 2012 i7 with a pretty decent amount of RAM in it and a solid state drive in there. So, and it basically, when I used to run Ecamm Live, which is the software that I use for streaming, when I would run Ecamm Live, it would basically just top out. So your 4 cores were just absolutely right up the top. So it was
i7 or i5?
i7.
Wow. Okay.
And then when I change, so it was using like 400%. Something like that, or 300 and something percent of the CPU. And after changing over to the Mini, that Ecamm Live software is now using something like 40%, something like that.
Huh.
So, yeah.
So we
very
do, the observant amongst us are seeing a trend developing. 2 3D printers, 2 Mac Minis, 2 pairs of glasses that you switch off and on during your live stream.
Yes.
Is coincidence, or do you just need to have two internet connections?
Gotta have 2 of everything.
Yeah.
Everyone has to have 2 of everything. I mean, I do actually try and have 2 of everything because I lose and break things. So, it's always good to have a second one. So.
Does your wife know about the other marriage?
Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
That's a no.
So anyhow, I would be happy to just sit here and talk about 3D printers, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that for a MacYack show. So let's launch into some topics. Now, I don't think this one got discussed last week. Anyone in the chat, if you do remember, if this has already been talked about. There is this Macworld story that circulates regularly. I'm going to put a link in the chat. And
Got
it's you got it? Yeah.
Yep.
And it basically is a story written by this person who sort of says, hey, don't buy a secondhand Mac. Because, and lists a whole bunch of reasons of why you should not buy a secondhand Mac. And we basically, when this one was published before, we gave it a serving, gave it a real serve because we weren't particularly impressed with it. And and then the story has basically come out again, and it's virtually just the same story, just republished.
Yeah.
And it is essentially the same rubbish. And pretty much every single point in this story that is listed there, we are able to sort of kind of debunk, I suppose. I mean, for example, in this article, it says if you buy a secondhand Mac, it will be Intel. And given the fact that I just finished saying that I bought a secondhand Mac that's an M1 Silicon, I sort of feel like that point number 5 is just immediately, irrelevant. But so anyhow, look, have a look at it if you like. There, we have actually talked about this on the show, so we won't go on about it this time unless there's anything someone specifically wants to say about it. But
I got lots to say about it, but I won't.
Yeah, I think you said them all last time too.
Yeah.
Didn't I link something in our group chat about there was another Macworld author who wrote basically the exact opposite?
Yeah,
it's perfectly fine to buy secondhand items.
But someone didn't add it to the notes, so now it's lost forever.
Well,
yeah.
And of course, we know that this is an article basically just designed. I mean, down the bottom there are links to where you can buy them, and we know that that's basically them. They're obviously going to be getting a kickback for anyone who clicks on those links. So that becomes fairly clear.
And Karen is going to run the same article again next year.
Yeah, Karen.
I found it.
Ooh.
Oh.
I will put it in the chat.
Do it.
God, it's a long. Okay.
Long Earl.
Well, go and check that one out because he makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. The story could have been a bit more broad, but it's a good start.
Yeah. For those wondering or curious who haven't clicked yet, it's called Ingenious Modders Are Keeping Old Macs Alive Long After Apple Has Given Them.
And of course, I assume we're talking about things like OpenCore and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is, once again, just need to obviously mention OpenCore. It's pretty darn amazing, the sorts of things that they have done with it. And, I mean, although I have transferred across to Apple Silicon in here, I'm more or less happy with the Mini. I'll talk about that in a moment. The Mac Pro is still grinding away here, doing stuff, file serving and Plex serving and security systeming and stuff.
Grinding, please. It's barely using half a core. Poor thing.
Probably. Saves me on electricity, though.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Oh, yeah, they do mention OpenCore on that article. And Colin. And a couple other guys. Interesting.
Okay. All right. So let's just move along here. Now, does anyone, I mean, I basically just put a whole bunch of topics in here before just that we can prattle on about. And just you guys, if you have a look at those, is there any one that stands out that you'd like to talk about?
I should probably open them. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm looking at them.
I'll just while you're having a bit of a think about that, I'll just quickly make mention of this. So I, as I mentioned on the show before, I think I even unboxed it on the show. I purchased one of the 2023 Mac Minis, which has the M2 Pro, I think, and I have to say that there are ups and downs with this thing, and I believe that the downs are things that just need to be resolved in time. The up is it's fast. There's absolutely no argument there. It's very, very fast. When I sit there and I look at the CPU usage, I mean, it's sort of, it just, with most tasks, it's barely breaking a sweat. And using Final Cut Pro, which I use a lot, has just made that experience a lot easier. And of course, I can also, use the latest version and all that sort of stuff. So very, in that regard, for what I actually bought it for, I'm incredibly pleased with it. The problems I've been having with it are based around the I/O. And I hope that these are things that can potentially be resolved in future, sort of firmware updates and stuff like that. But I have found the
Don't hold your
US,
breath.
the USB-C ports to be a little on the flaky side. I have had times where a drive just sort of stops responding, and I get a beach ball. And just sits there and wait. And sometimes it doesn't recover at all, and the computer just restarts itself. And having a computer just restart itself is kind of annoying. And I could maybe blame the enclosures or something like that, but it really does seem. So I've got quite a few external drives connected via USB on this thing, and it does seem to struggle a little bit.
Is this the M1 or the M2?
This is M2 Pro, yeah.
Have you checked if the M1 has the same issues? Like if you swap out the computers and use all the same externals,
Yes.
same problem?
Well, no, I haven't tried it because that's going to be a real pain in the, private parts, because it's, this is like my work computer with all the work stuff and things and such. So, and of course, the other thing is it doesn't do it all the time. I can literally go for days without any issue at all. I'm definitely in a smooth patch at the moment. That's for sure. It's been running quite happily.
You just jinxed it.
Yeah, I know. But it's just, it just sometimes goes.
Yeah.
So,
I'll be right back. My cat wants out.
okay, fair enough. Did you choose a topic?
Yes, cats.
Okay, so what I'm going to just
Wonderful.
I'm going to just sort of launch into this one here right now. I'm just going to mention this one because this is one I put in here before. Games.
Yeah,
I am
looking at
not-
that one too.
I am not much of a game player, but at the same time, when I have a new computer, like I do with this Mac Mini, I do sometimes like to see where games are at in terms of technology and stuff like that, and how they look and all that. I am just curious if there are people in the chat who can sort of say what are some of the really good games available for Mac these days. What are some ones that they can recommend? I am genuinely interested on what games I can play on my Mac, and I really don't want to have to install Steam.
I was going to say Unreal Tournament, but you can't play that anymore.
No, I can play it on the the guy grinding away here.
The grind.
So
Yeah,
Hi,
I haven't
Rudy.
even had time for games, but there's one. Let me see if I can find it. It's about somewhere with an F. Firewatch, really cool game.
you did tell us about that. Apparently, it's a game where you watch fire. Yeah.
Well, you're one of those dudes that sits up in a tower and watches a big forest for fires emerging, and then you alert the authorities. Hey, Kate.
Okay.
And a fire breaks out, but some other stuff happens as well, and you got to investigate and figure out what's going on and who did it, and it's a pretty cool game.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not selling it the
is
right
that-
way, but
You had to
Elder
get that through
Scrolls.
Steam, though, didn't you?
Elder Scrolls. Chris Logan said Elder Scrolls Online.
Mm.
I mean, I know that like ages ago I bought, was it Return to Castle Wolfenstein or something? One of those ones that it was one that Mike actually played quite a bit in live streams for a while ago. And I remember at the time I got that, even though I'm not that much of a first person shooter game, at the time that I got it, it was showing me what technology was capable of at that time. And I really enjoyed it. I liked playing it. It was like, oh, wow, look at that. But of course, I know things have advanced quite a bit since then. So I'm just curious about what's some of the, real sort of pushing the envelope in terms of, sort of graphics and capability and stuff like that on computers.
oh well,
these
there
days.
is one that just came to mind. It came out a few years ago. It's a sequel or prequel or some kind of quill to Mist or Riven. I think it's called Oblivion,
Yep.
something like that. And even with upgraded graphics card and everything, my Mac Pro just couldn't handle proper graphics settings. So that
I'll
might
give that a
be
try. I have played that. I didn't finish it. I got probably about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through it, and then it started getting too hard for my old brain, and I sort of stopped playing it. But it's absolutely sumptuous graphics. You know, I know that was, if you are a fan of the Mist Riven style games, it was spectacular, absolutely spectacular. So I will give that one a try on the new computer, see how that goes. So yeah. Oh, by the way, Kate, look at this. Look at this. End of 5 S1 running Clipper.
Nah.
I mean, I know it's no. It's like it's definitely not because
as she looks behind her and sees that monster
she's got
of
the
a
bamboo labs thing. I mean,
She's like, mine prints in colors. How about yours?
Yeah.
Mine just made me pizza. What did yours?
The one advantage this has is it has a very, very it can work at very high temperatures, so you can use a lot of different types of filament. I'm going to be doing my first tests with ABS. So anyhow, games. Yes, I agree. Clipper is amazing. I'm absolutely blown away by it. It just saves so much speed. I've got Clipper now running on the Ender 3 V2 as well, so even that's going faster now with it. So very happy with that. Printed this the other day. It's kind of one of the stupidest things you've ever seen to be 3D printed. That's for sure. But and it took I think 18 hours.
Hey, Sean. I would have been a lot more impressed if you made all the
Sean.
pins different colors as
Yeah,
you
that
were
would've
printing.
That would have taken. Can you imagine how
That
long
would-
that would
It'd
take?
still be
18 years.
Oh gosh, a golly. Okay, so Sean, while you're in the chat, we were just talking about games. So, are there any good modern games for the Mac that you would recommend? Recent games for the Mac that you would
You're
recommend?
asking Action Retro about modern stuff?
Right.
He has to use a modern Mac for work and stuff, doesn't he? I imagine. Anyhow. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is a topic.
I was just gonna say, I it just occurred to me. Minecraft is like the only game that I still play, and I haven't played it in like 2 months. But it just occurred to me I don't have it on my studio yet, so I have no idea how games play on this thing. I'm gonna have to do that sometime.
Yeah. So,
The Long Dark. What is that?
It's on Steam.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Is that a zombie game?
I assume that means I have to install Steam.
Most games these days, you do have to install Steam.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So, solo survival against the wilderness. Oh, I'll
The
do well at
wilderness.
that. I'll do well at that for sure.
How did you find me in the wilderness?
I'm made for the wilderness. Okay, so here is our next stupid topic. Once upon a time, Apple was the underdog, the little guy fighting hard against Microsoft and IBM. Now, Apple is a behemoth, exploiting workers, overcharging for their wares, and selling products with planned obsolescence. Why are we still loyal?
I'm
Dana.
not.
Because Windows is that bad.
That's true.
It's a very, very short answer.
I just saw an article the other day, and it was on a tech site, and it said Windows 11 is so broken that even Microsoft can't fix it. And I thought, well, that's a rounding support right there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably what it really comes down to, isn't it? It's sort of, there's not much more to it than that.
Yeah. If a good alternative comes along, I will jump ship tomorrow. I have no desire to buy new hardware. I have no desire to try the latest OS. Although Monterey and so far, what's it called? Ventura have not been bad. Even for the first release, Ventura wasn't bad. Some bugs, but not a lot. Could have been worse. Like what's the one that we don't talk about after Mojave?
Catalina.
Yeah, that's the one.
It took us that long to think of the name of it.
I've never
Thanks for
installed it.
reminding me of that chestnut again.
I have
And
never used it ever.
me neither. And to be fair, we gave Linux a fair shake for
We did.
one of our startup disk episodes, and Sean is our witness. We tried it. It just, it just doesn't hold a candle to the amount of application support and compatibility that Mac and Windows have. It just can't even be in the same ballpark. So until they get that sorted, Linux is not a valid,
I basically found that certainly this is from my feeling is that where Linux would work for that would be when I have an old computer, like say for instance an Intel Core 2 Duo or something like that. I can load Linux up on it and turn it into a browsing machine. You can just sort of load up Chrome or whatever, and you can use it for browsing the web with reasonable speed. You can do the latest SSL certificates and everything like that. And so you can essentially turn what would have otherwise been some worthless hardware, more or less worthless hardware, into, a browsing machine, a machine that you could just, sort of, I don't know, give to your nan or something for browsing the web or checking out Facebook or something like that. So I felt like it was quite good for that. But it's not something that I would be wanting to use constantly, and I definitely wasn't very productive on it. I know that just takes time and practice, but yeah. I mean, it's I keep like the other day we were hearing something about what Apple was doing, and my wife just sort of said, "Remind me why we use them still," and I just thought, it is sometimes a little bit embarrassing when you hear about stuff that they're doing in terms of, sort of.
Well, now I need to know what you heard that made you say that.
I can't remember.
Oh, come on.
It was something to do with, I don't know, sort of the, hardware becoming useless or locked down, and then.
Oh, was it about the phone cable being slower if it's not an authorized Apple cable?
No, it wasn't about that, but that doesn't even surprise me a little bit.
No.
Basically, what's ended up happening here is the EU have turned around and said, "You have to do this," and they've turned around and said,
pretty much. The EU threatening you is like a goldfish screaming at you. Like, who cares?
So I mean, that was just. I can't even pretend to be surprised that they've gone and done something like that. So. Yeah. But anyhow, yeah. Look, I don't remember exactly what it was. I mean, we know that they've copped a lot of stuff about exploitation of workers. We know they've copped a lot of stuff about waste, because although they had this image of them being a green organization and that they're manufacturing practices using recyclable materials and all that sort of blah 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 blah, for them to have created this circumstance where you can literally just have repair places that have mountains and mountains and mountains of computers that cannot be used because they're locked down and can't be unlocked. That's just so incredibly wasteful and terrible. And we know that there are ways that Apple can maintain their existing policy about it's designed so that these things can't be stolen. They can maintain that and still make those computers able to be used again.
Yeah.
And all it takes is an approval process with the prior owner. That's all it takes. It's just, initiate a one-time approval process where an email gets sent to the previous owner to say, this laptop there is a request come through for this laptop. And of course, if it's stolen, then it also gives them an opportunity to actually potentially get the thing back, because if someone's got it, and they are trying to use a stolen good, if they're sort of essentially becoming like a fence, I mean, I think it just makes perfect sense to do that. But anyhow,
yeah. Now I have a question, because there's plenty to rag on when it comes to Apple. Trust me, I will lead the charge. But what are some of the things that we do like? Or maybe we don't like them now, but it's what first drew us into the ecosystem.
Oh, Spotlight for sure. You know what I love so much about Spotlight? I love it, the fact that when you search for something, and if it's not indexed,
If you
it just
could
doesn't give
see
you,
me right now, dude.
it just doesn't give you any result. Yeah. you get. I just you know what I love it when I go to the desktop and I go to search for something and it says 0 results, even though that I know that there are hundreds of files on the hard drive that have that in its name, but it's not finding them because it's not properly indexed. I love that about it.
I mostly love Spotlight because my mail app depends on it, and when I'm trying to search 5 million emails and Spotlight index broke again, then I'm screwed.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I use emails as a paper trail, and so when if I'm searching for something on email, let's just say it's something I've installed some software, and I'm looking up for my security, for my my what do you call it, installation code, because I buy software, Jay, and I just do a search, and I search for that software, just so that I can get my access code to install it, and nothing comes up because of Spotlight. Anyhow,
so we can all agree that we love Spotlight, but what are some of the other things we like?
I think Kate said earlier, the ecosystem, everything just works with it. With
Yeah, but that hasn't really been the case in ever.
No, I have a very sort of
a lot better than it used
functional. Very functional ecosystem in this household, that's for sure, in terms of like Apple TV and iPads and laptops, because I've got so many freaking laptops. I've got laptops for different seasons and for different moods.
When I try to AirPlay something from my phone to my Apple TV, I have a list of about 75 Apple TVs to choose from to mirror to, and I'm pretty sure I only have one. So yeah, it's not as smooth as it should be.
Dear. Put useless web ads above the local files you're actually looking for. I did not know that did that.
I think he's comparing that to.
Actually,
that's a good one.
Yeah. The watch approval process, and I love being able to unlock a laptop with a watch. The only downside to that is when my cat is sitting on my laptop and the laptop's locked, and then I walk past the laptop and unlock it, and the next thing you know, the cat's sending text messages.
Yeah, they always end up with us.
It has happened many times. By the way, this one right here, that has been a long time coming.
Yeah, but these are all things you can enjoy when you buy the latest and greatest, or you install the latest and greatest. If you're happy on Mojave, you can't use any of that stuff. What do you still have in your ecosystem that really works? Because most of us use a mix of much older, and maybe one or two new things.
Look, I have to admit that having used the Mac Pro for years and years and years and years, and taking it well past what Apple would consider its use-by date, when I did finally update, there are a few things and I know what you're going to say, Jay. Some of these things I could have done with some hardware upgrades, but there are a few things that I really did appreciate happening. First of all was AirDrop, because I didn't have AirDrop on the old one, so that is a really something that I use a lot. So I'm very, very happy with that. Being able to update to the latest Final Cut Pro, which of course I can only do by being on the latest operating system. And again, I know I could have potentially done that with OpenCore, not necessarily Ventura though. And I do like the ability to edit text messages that Ventura has given the ability to do. That's something that I do quite like. So
you replaced your Mac Pro with a machine that can do all that, even though your Mac Pro could have done all that.
Could have done some of it.
All of it.
You can't put Ventura on a Mac Pro, can you?
Yes, you can.
Isn't it broke?
No, OpenCore solved that already. Even Buddy agrees. You sell out.
Dear, I no real regrets. I
Buddy doesn't use Mojave.
Now, I will say that I like. I more so appreciate the little things, like my phone telling me when my watch is charged and it's in the other room or it's upstairs. Hey, your watch is fully charged. Little, what's the word for it? Convenience things. I like that. Contrivances, yeah. So far, that's when it works. So far, that's what keeps me in this ecosystem. But there's plenty of times where it doesn't work. Like I'm playing music in the garage, and I'm underneath a tractor and I want to adjust the volume or skip a song, my watch will allow me to control what's playing on my phone and the volume until I raise my arm and suddenly it doesn't. Stupid stuff like that. It worked 2 minutes ago. What happened in between then and now? Nothing.
You need to get yourself a new Mac.
It's shut up.
The thing that Kate said about Apple hardware lasting a long time, I really hope that's still the case with the current systems, but definitely with, I think the Mac, the classic Mac Pro was the last truly longevity based,
Yeah.
you're
And
gonna get the
both of you will crawl back to those machines at some point.
Mine's sitting right there.
Oh, yeah. Side eyeballing both of you. Like, you'll come back to me. Don't worry.
Right
But
now
yeah,
it's like-
another one that Kate said, when I need to enter a password on my Mac, you can just push the button on your watch instead of typing in your password.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
It only works
that's
twice a day. The other 55 times, it doesn't work.
It works. You need to get a new Mac, I think, Jay, because it works all the time for me. Apple Pay is also an absolutely fantastic thing. Apple Pay has changed my life. Being able to change this, this Mr. H has mentioned here. I mean, being able to pay for stuff with either my phone or my watch. I do it mainly with my phone, mainly because it's like if I'm buying groceries, I've probably got my card out on my phone out to scan my loyalty card or something like that, and then you can just double click and pay it. I've found that to be incredibly convenient. So that's been a kind of life changer with that one. I don't know if Windows does this, but this is something that I love on the Mac, and that is Quick Look. Just being able to press space on something and see what it is. Now, Windows may well do that. I've got the latest Windows, but I haven't spent enough time on it because I don't give a shit.
Quick Look is nice, but limited. There are so many file types that it doesn't support.
Yes, you're right, but it supports enough for it to be an incredibly convenient feature for me. So
I'm just glad that you can now use Quick Look on like an InDesign file.
Yeah.
Whereas before it would just show the icon. Now I don't know if that's something that Adobe changed or something Apple changed or both.
It's Adobe. It's actually an Adobe plugin.
Nice
so when you install Adobe, it actually installs a plugin that allows you to do that. You can actually see the plugin in your security settings. It is an Adobe thing. So.
And it works with fonts. You can look at a font without loading it. Nice.
Yes, that's right. That is also awesome. So yeah, I definitely think that Quick Look is an incredibly convenient thing. And that's something that I would miss horribly if that was taken away from me.
So you're saying that Quick Look, which has been around since 2007 or 8, Adobe now finally made a plugin in 2023 to make it work?
We've talked about this before in terms of Adobe's responsiveness. We found a bug, and so did a lot of other people years and years and years ago. And it comes in the Photoshop one where you're saving for web. So if you go for the save for web from the file menu, and you go to export it, the whole name would be highlighted. So if you just wanted to type a new name, it would take away the extension, and so you would then have to manually type in the extension at the end. Well, Adobe finally resolved that. I mean, it took them something like 5 years or something.
At least, yeah.
But they did then finally resolve it. And of course, the big issue I have with Adobe now is it's slow. In particular, Adobe Illustrator, I find if I'm working with a lot of images, it's slow. And it shouldn't be, because the sorts of basic stuff that I'm doing didn't used to be slow using CS4, Adobe CS4, Illustrator CS4 on, sort of an old, an old Intel Core 2 Duo or something like that. So it's definitely, it's them, It's
have they optimized for the M1 and M2?
Supposedly.
So no, not that you can tell.
Yeah, apparently they have, but yeah, I feel like it's pretty emulate-y.
All right.
So, but anyhow, So anyhow, we flogged
Yeah.
that one. Should we move on to something else?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Jeremy,
To some extent-
about a
Let's just see how
Q&A.
Yeah.
Sure. Ask a question.
Are we supposed to do a Q&A? I
No,
thought
I
that
don't
was
think
Grudy's department.
But if you ask a question, we'll do our best to answer it.
Yeah.
Now, this to some extent, this next topic, the last one, kind of segues into it fairly well, and that is that we're certainly in my professional career, Macs were always part of it because I worked in print and graphics and that sort of stuff, and Macs were always the hardware of choice for designers and sort of print people alike. And that's not so much the case anymore. People now can, there are probably, I know there are still designers that prefer to work on a Mac, and I know, but there are also designers that work on PCs. Are there any specific professions or trades or something like that that are using Macs exclusively these days, or more likely to be using a Mac than a Windows? As I say, in the 90s, designers were using Macs. Now, in the 2020s, are there particular professions that are choosing Macs over another computer? I'm just curious. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Not to my knowledge, because it doesn't pay anymore. You can have similarly capable hardware at a lower price point or the same price point, and it'll be a custom built PC or a Hackintosh even that you can do with whatever you want, all the stuff that Apple doesn't allow you to do anymore. Now, I have seen some reviews that when the M1 and the M2 and stuff came out, there were some professional video editors that built out a PC to match the Mac as close as possible.
Yeah.
And the Mac still prevailed in a lot of the aspects, just because the integration of hardware and software is just that much better with Apple.
Yeah.
But it was a very close call. The PCs are certainly capable enough to do whatever the Mac used to excel at.
Yeah, I mean, as a Final Cut Pro user, Final Cut Pro definitely utilizes the full power of this hardware. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you can just tell when you're using that it is really, sort of optimized for this hardware and works incredibly well. So I guess if you are someone who was wanting to just build yourself an edit suite, with Final Cut Pro, I haven't tried DaVinci Resolve on this yet. I probably should just see how it runs. As I say, if people are Final Cut Pro users, then they'd be sticking with the Apple, I suppose.
I think the only people that are stuck with Apple are the ones that have to, because of purchasing new external hardware or software is just too expensive.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we've all heard the stories of Chem Labs that use G3 or G4 still because of audio engineers.
I still think the music industry is
Yeah.
heavily maxed.
Yeah, I don't think Logic is the top dog though. They use other software from what I saw, but I mean the what was it? I think it was some graphic company that used a very expensive plotter, and we're talking 15, 20 years ago, and it was just too expensive to replace, and it wasn't compatible with Intel. So to date, they run that stuff on G4s and G5s.
G5, any G5.
Yeah, G5, 10.5 for sure. That's what I have running on my G5 here.
Grinding
away here. So that 10.4 or 10.5. So, but 10.5, I like. There's a few extra features. Jay's not a big fan of 10.5, but I like.
There's G-Force that Leopard will work on, but it's just not as buttery smooth.
Yeah. And actually, if you're going to be running a G5 anyway, you might as well install Sorbet Leopard.
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
Yep. I was gonna say.
And I know a lot of schools that used to do Mac switch to iPads and stuff for their students, and they mostly, at least in my area, they all switch to Chromebooks. Like, screw this, man. We can't keep up with the cost.
Yeah, I mean, here's an interesting thing: is that the the last job that my wife had, she worked for a large government agency, and that government agency basically gives all of their staff PCs. I think from memory, they were probably ThinkPads or something like that. Little Lenovo's, and every single staff member ends up with one of these little laptops. They're all virtually the same model, but they all were given iPhones. So for a company that was completely and totally Windows based for the hardware they gave out, they gave all the staff iPhones, and apparently it has very, very good management software, for what do they call, what's the word they use? I can't remember.
The mobile device manager?
Yeah. And like enterprise, sort of management for the phone. So that I found quite interesting that they were opting for an Apple product over an Android product, especially when they're having to give one to every single staff member. We're talking about thousands of staff. So,
the education market used to be like almost entirely Apple. I remember when I was in elementary school and middle school, every classroom had one or two like Apple IIc or Apple IIe, something like that. And then in high school, we had entire computer labs that had Macs, like LCs and 2SIs and things like that in there. But now, like my nieces are, I think they're 12 or 11 or 12, and they have Chromebooks.
Yeah.
Every student has a Chromebook. So
from a cost perspective, it just makes more sense.
If Apple made a low-cost educational laptop, they could really get their foot back into that market, but they're just not going to do it.
Are they even after that market? I don't know. I mean, because if you're going to make them for education, you got to make them reasonably robust. I mean, they're going to be thrown around.
Have a MacBook Air and give it to a student.
Yeah, I mean, you put a piece of paper between the keyboard and the screen, and you close the lid and you crack the screen. I mean, you need to have something that's built more like the old plastic MacBooks of the day. The unibody, the white unibody. They're a pretty tough little Mac. But I do know of someone who has a Mac, and is an old school friend. And when I spoke to him, I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize you're a Mac person." He's like, "He's not a Mac person. He just chose a Mac because it works, and he doesn't have to deal with any complications or anything like that. He basically just fires it up and away it goes." So he's someone who's actually opted for the Mac, not because he has any real sort of affinity with Apple or anything like that. He just likes the way it just works. So
I opted for a Mac at my job. It wasn't an option that was presented to me.
And how's that going? Still working out?
Oh yeah, fantastic.
They're being nice to you. I mean, because sometimes when you buck the trend like that, they get nasty with you.
Well, let's just say that there was a company-wide panic not too long ago about our VPN solution not working anymore because a serious security vulnerability was found. I was able to just download and install a newer client, while everybody on Windows was stuck with what their service portal provided them, which was only the old version. They couldn't install anything newer because all the PCs are managed like way too much. Like by the time the PCs load the operating system and the antivirus and the anti-this and anti-that, you got maybe 2 clock cycles left on that thing, and it's all locked down. But on a Mac, it's pretty easy to get around all that management. So went online, found a newer client, installed it, and I was one of a very few people that was able to work that day. So who's laughing now?
By the way, speaking of security flaws, this was something that I put in the notes, but I think I don't know if anybody read it. I didn't read the entire thing myself, but anyway, here's the link. So anyone wants to go and read it. If you have the ChatGPT app on your iPhone, there are apparently some serious security flaws that you need to be aware of. Now, this article is fairly recent, 3 days ago. Hopefully they have started working on resolving it, but I don't know.
I didn't even know there was an iPhone app.
I didn't either.
Oh, it's a Chat GPT for everything now. Everybody's going crazy with this AI crap.
Yeah, I mean, I use it one of the things that I like about it is it's Google with a bit more flexibility with the questions. So I can just if I with you can Google stuff, sure, you can find stuff out, but with ChatGPT you can say, what's a better word for so and so, and it'll just come and give you a whole bunch of options for better. Because I do a lot of writing, and it'll give you a bunch of choices, and you think, oh yeah, actually that's a good word.
I use thesaurus.com.
No, it's thesaurus works for a single word, but what if you're trying an alternative for a saying? So yeah, sure, you can use a thesaurus for a single word.
What's another way to say, did you get that thing I sent you?
Contrivance.
Yeah, exactly, that's right. You could if you said if you wanted to say, I don't know, you say, a friend of mine just had a death in the family. How should I respond? Something like that. And it'll give you some ideas of things you could say that aren't offensive, because I need help with that.
I must admit, I haven't read the article. I just read the last paragraph that, of course, we're not saying ChatGPT is spying on you and stealing all of your information for nefarious, dubious reasons, but it's sensible to... Really? Isn't everybody expecting that out of the box?
It could.
Yeah, I mean, we know that ChatGPT is something which is learning. It's absorbing its information and improving its answers and stuff. So it's got to be sucking up everything,
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So for a few months now, I've been wanting to talk about this feature that I discovered on my phone, but I can't show it. But I still want to make people aware. So I'm going to half-ass it, okay? Everyone that currently has an iPhone in front of them, I want you to pick it up and unlock it. And then I want you to find the Files app. Okay?
Files?
Files.
I don't think I've ever opened Files.
And pick a random folder, either on the phone or in iCloud Drive, doesn't matter.
Yes.
And once you are there, at the very top right, there's a little ball with 3 dots in it. Look at that. And then it says Scan Documents in the list.
Okay.
And it is the most amazing thing I have discovered on my phone to date. Because now I can scan all my receipts, and it does the auto white balancing and contrast, and it sharpens it, and it is amazing. And even though I can't do a fancy demo of this right now, I just want everybody to be aware of it.
And you can do multiple page documents and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's fancy as hell.
I think once
so you can have an immediate digital copy of your receipts.
Yeah. Pisses my wife off because I hold up the line at the register before I walk away, I take a picture, because guaranteed before I get to the car, I will have lost my receipt.
Like, okay, let's go. Have a nice day. Now, hold on.
Gotta do this now. Yes, I do.
I had an interesting situation. Well, it's not interesting at all. It's as boring as batshit, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So I had to get an address from something, and I had it printed, and it's like, sort of, what a pain, print it, and just take a photo of it with your phone, and then you can just copy the text. It just treats it like it's a text document. You just select the text straight out of the image and copy and paste it somewhere, and you can do that on the Mac Mini as well. So and it's absolutely fantastic feature. It's just so handy.
I used it on a movie a few months ago. The subtitles I had, because there were French parts in it, and my French is rusty at best, and the subtitles had the French text in it. So that's helpful. Couldn't find another one, so I pointed my phone at it, at the subtitle. This little bubble popped up. I tapped on it, and it translated it on the fly. So I could actually, for about 5 minutes of movie, I had to pause, look at it through my phone. Oh, that's what the hell they're saying, and then I could carry on with the movie. It was great.
Yeah, no, that is definitely handy. I'm just going to say, Thomas B, you have to correct ChatGPT when it gives you incorrect answers. That's the only way it's going to get better. So when it says, is this a good answer? You say, no, it wasn't. And you say, why? And you say, because the A40AV doesn't use a 68060, it uses a 68040.
So I can start teaching ChatGPT about how beige is no good and PowerPC is the way to go.
And then the app
I've actually
responds, you live at 123 Main Street. There's a cruise missile on the way.
I got contacted by a production company the other day, and they're actually paying me to use a Centris 650 with a monitor, and keyboard, and mouse in some sort of video production. So
nice.
It's interesting. I'm meeting with them next week. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Right. So yeah. Anyhow, that was that. God, that's been in the notes. That thing about the scanning document. That's been in the notes for such a long time.
Oh yeah. But then I got this horrible spray tan that went bad, and I've never been able to demo it since.
You haven't been back on there. Yeah, that's right.
Tan.
Okay. So how long have we been going for?
Long enough. Okay. Goodbye.
Yeah. Is an hour long enough? Didn't we say an hour is long enough these days?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
I can keep going for hours, but it's up to y'all, right?
Sean uses smarter child.
So got some good information from folks here. I will be. I'm definitely going to be trying out this The Long Dark Game. It's time for all the things.
I've looked for The Long Dark, but I cannot find it on my sources. So.
It's Beam.
There's that one.
Okay, so there we go. There's all the silly stuff out of the way for now. What was I going to say? Okay, so what? Anything coming up for you guys, Dana? Anything on the horizon? Anything of interest?
Well, let me think here. I'm going to be putting Minecraft on my studio this weekend, probably. We love Clint Howard.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my.
Clint, send us a super chat. Other than that, let's see. I'm going to what they're calling a case sale. First weekend of June. Basically, there's a local recycler who buys overstock from Micro Center and other places locally. Tons of stuff from Micro Center, and then just marks it way down, to wherever he can still make a profit, but you're paying super cheap prices. So I'll go over there and see what they've got. Sometimes they got some pretty cool stuff. I think the last time they had those big, what do they call them? The Odyssey monitors. Who makes that? Is it Samsung? It's like this huge, 48-inch curved monitor. And they usually sell for like $1,500 or something. And this guy was selling them for $700.
So you picked up 5?
No, I didn't get it. I already have curved monitors. I don't need any more.
Okay. Hey, before we go, I want to ask, did everyone here catch the Brankus Creations live stream where
no, I don't watch that
Bruce had a little bit of a jump scare because Mother Nature reared her head? Did anyone catch that?
Play it.
I caught it. I definitely caught it.
You caught it. So did your pants. They were full. All right. Well, for anyone who has, we got a few followers in here. For those of you who haven't seen it, here's a little clip of the moment where lightning struck a little too close for comfort.
Hide your kids.
Wife's cars. Jesus!
And for anyone who is offended by the blasphemy in that, it's my apologies. I didn't give what I said a lot of thought.
The blasphemy is why the lightning was sent to you. I know what you're going to say. You always
talk slower when you get scared.
Yeah, that was quite something else. That was so close. That's right. the lightning and the thunder at exactly the same time. And it's like, oh, what am I doing outside sitting in a metal shed?
I will tell you though, it is the most relaxed I've ever been with that rain and thunder sound in the background.
Until that part.
Dear. But yeah, so anywho. Now, just very quickly, just going to mention, I recently picked up a rather pristine condition Apple 2C and a 2C color monitor. I had never even seen one of these 2C color monitors before. Works beautifully. That's a bit of fun. And I am also picking up another SE30 and a Quicksilver G4. So feeling very good about those recent additions to the collection.
And this weekend is part 7.1 or part 8 of the battery bombed board, right?
SE. Well, I last live stream I actually changed across to working on someone else's board because I just spent too much time on my own. Someone was contacting me about a battery bomb 2CI. I spent some time on it. I didn't get too far. I've created a sort of like an address line matrix so I can go in and ping out, make sure that everything's going where it needs to go. But in that last live stream, I found 2 more busted traces that I hadn't seen before. So I'm just sure there's more broken traces I haven't found yet. So
yeah, I forgot you switched to another computer, and I think I started off when I joined the live chat, part 1. And a very confident Brankus said, "No, this is not going to be a multi-parter." And then it did.
It will be, yeah. The SE30, I put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and since I've done that, it's got more problems than it did than before. So I've got to go in and check all the address lines again. So yeah.
So this weekend.
Maybe. I've got lots of reviews to do at the moment. I need to review this 3D printer. I need to review another microscope, and I need to review a thermal camera. So I've got obligations with those. So I may not stream this weekend because I might be working on video production, but I'll try. I definitely will try. So
gasp.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Jay, what do you got coming up?
More outside and garage time, and hopefully cleaning my office to the point where I can start doing repairs. But I don't see that happening this weekend. Maybe next week. So yeah, nothing much technology wise.
Where does Bruce put all these microscopes? Well, one
in the bathroom, one in the shed.
One of them found its way to another country. The Vivor one that I tested, I'm still using that arm, and that's bloody awesome. I'm having to use my microscope head because it's got the trinocular adapter, but the optics were great on that thing. It's just I can't connect a camera to it, but I'm still using the arm for that. And then this one, I think I'll probably keep this one because this one's small and convenient. So, but you'll have to see it's a microscope with a multimeter built in.
We do want to see.
Yeah, you'll have to wait and see that. That's going to be exciting. Yeah, 100%.
Just catching up on the chat, but I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good. Alrighty, well, I think that's probably it. We have managed to prattle on for an hour about basically nothing, and we did get some of these old topics that have been sitting there for a while. We managed to get them out of the way, so I feel like we've done a little bit of housekeeping there, so that's good.
Oh, look at that! It's about time.
Well done. I hope you use my affiliate link. Kaihuits. Yes, they're a good little multimeter. There's no.
Although the Kaihuits in the Brankus streams doesn't really get the amount of love and affection it did in the past. I see a different brand pop up once in a while.
Yeah, one of the main reasons why I have been using the Fluke lately is because I've been doing the sort of stuff with the board where I need instantaneous continuity response. And while the Kaihuits is pretty quick, it's not as quick as the Fluke. But as I keep saying to people, the Fluke is also more than 4 times more expensive. So
you're so impatient.
Yes. Will Wheaton. Okay.
I'm sorry, Jeremy, if it's the exact same meter but branded differently. It's not a Kaiwitz, therefore it is not worthy. The
Yeah,
Kaiwitz is the only way
well,
to go. It's
I cannot speak for it. I can't because it's not Kaiwitz.
Wheats. We're going to say that from now on, aren't we? Thank you, Kate.
We're putting emphasis on the H because that's how Kate spelled it.
Whip, cool whip. Does anyone have any
Cool
cool whip? It always degenerates into Family Guy. Sorry about that. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for this week. There's no doubt about the fact that it has been one of the better shows.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I'm just joking, by the way. So
I'm not. This is the best show we ever did.
that's an insult to the other Macyackers, and we cannot be having that.
Well, then they should have been here. I mean,
Yeah, this is true. They should have been here. Yeah.
Well, Steve had a legit reason.
Yeah. No one else did.
I mean, did anyone bother to read the description underneath this video? I mean, we made good on that.
Isn't it?
Okay, just
No,
saying.
I didn't.
May contain traces of nuts. Yep.
Oh, that it did. It says, as is the trend with the show, it just gets better every time. Tonight is no exception.
Oh yes,
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
I sold it, and then we made good on it. Best show ever.
Smash that like button.
Yeah. There we go. Where's the outro? Oh, there it is. Found it. Okay.
We
cool.
have an outro?
Yeah, we do.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Cool.
So everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for jumping into the chat and making it exciting and fun. And I hope everyone's had a lovely time and very enjoyable. And we will see you in a fortnight's time. That's 2 weeks for people who don't know what that means. So,
It's a game.
hey. Spelled different. So thank you very much. Have a good one, and we will see you with the next one. Bye bye.
Adios.
Oh.